All right, Cowboys Nation, let's get into it because the rumors swirling around the league right now are wild. And yes, they got Dallas written all over them. There's been a lot of noise about Jeffrey Simmons possibly being on the trade block, and naturally, whenever a star defensive lineman's name comes up, Cowboys fans start to wonder if Jerry Jones and company should be picking up the phone. But before we jump to conclusions, let's actually break down what this means, what's real, what's exaggerated, and whether it even makes sense for Dallas to get involved. The chatter started when reports popped up online claiming that Tennessee might be open to moving Simmons and that they'd be taking on a massive financial hit if they did it. Now, that immediately raised eyebrows because the numbers being thrown around didn't exactly add up. And that's the first thing we got to clear up. The original report suggested the Titans would eat over $30 million in dead money if they dealt him. That sounds crazy, right? Well, that's because it is. The truth is a lot different. If Tennessee actually traded Simmons, they'd be saving close to $18 million on the cap, with around $15 million left in dead money. Still significant, but nowhere near that scary 30-plus figure. So already, we're talking about a rumor built on shaky ground. Now here's where it gets interesting. If the Cowboys, or any team for that matter, decided to make a move, Simmons' contract isn't the nightmare some people make it out to be. His base salary is reasonable for a player of his caliber, and none of the future years are guaranteed. That's a huge detail. It means that if you trade for him, you're essentially paying year to year without locking yourself into a long-term risk. From a financial standpoint, it's manageable. From a talent standpoint, well, Simmons is still Simmons. He's one of the best interior disruptors in football. This season alone, he's racked up tackles for loss, added sacks, and looked like the dominant force we saw a couple of years ago before injuries slowed him down. On a struggling Titans team, he's been one of the few bright spots, which makes the idea of him being available both surprising and believable at the same time. But let's focus on Dallas for a second. Would adding Simmons really be the best move for the Cowboys? On paper, pairing him with Osa Odigizwa and Kenny Clark sounds terrifying. Imagine those three rotating inside, wreaking havoc, collapsing pockets, and freeing up Micah Parsons to terrorize quarterbacks from the edge. That vision alone is enough to make any fan salivate. But then reality sets in. You've already invested significant resources into the defensive tackle room. OSA is emerging as a cornerstone, and Clark isn't cheap either. If you bring Simmons in, somebody's snap count takes a hit. You don't pay that kind of money or give up those kinds of assets for a guy who's only on the field 40% of the time. That's not good roster management. This isn't about Simmons not being a fit talent-wise. He's a beast, no doubt about it. The issue is opportunity cost. What else could you use those draft picks and that cap space for? Because if you look at this Cowboys roster honestly, the bigger concern isn't inside, it's on the edge. DeMarcus Lawrence is solid, but he's not the dominant sack artist he once was, and the rotation around him hasn't exactly been terrifying opponents. That's where Dallas really needs help. Someone who can consistently win one-on-one outside and force offenses to pick their poison between double-teaming Parsons or dealing with another elite edge. If Simmons played on the outside, this would be a no-brainer. But as an interior guy, even at his level, the fit feels a little off for what Dallas actually needs right now. Still, the idea of Simmons being available sparks curiosity because it also tells us a lot about where the Titans are as a franchise. They look like a team on the verge of tearing it all down and starting over. They've already struggled through coaching changes and lackluster results, and moving a star like Simmons would be the ultimate signal that a rebuild is on the horizon. That's where the Cowboys and other contenders come into play. Teams always circle around situations like this because when a franchise is ready to reset, it usually means veterans can be had at a discount compared to their peak value. But Simmons isn't the only name floating out there. Another one that's gaining traction is cornerback Tariq Woolen. And this rumor, honestly, might make more sense for Dallas than the Simmons one. Woolen burst onto the scene as a rookie with 6 interceptions, showing off freakish athleticism at 6'4", with blazing speed and long arms. He's exactly the type of corner Dallas usually falls in love with. Lately, though, things haven't been as smooth. His playing time in Seattle has dipped, and it feels like the Seahawks might be open to moving him before he hits the end of his rookie deal. That's where the Cowboys could swoop in. Cornerback is a position where Dallas could use help. The secondary hasn't been as consistent as you'd like, and adding someone with Woolen's upside could change the dynamic completely. The pros are obvious. He's young, talented, and physically everything Dan Quinn dreams about in a defensive back. The cons, though, are real too. You have to wonder why Seattle would even consider letting him go. Has his play dropped off too much? Is he simply not a fit for what they're doing? And then there's the bigger picture question for Dallas. If you trade for Woolen, are you really committed to paying him when his rookie deal is up? Because you just shelled out big money for Trayvon Diggs, and it's tough to see the Cowboys paying two corners top dollar at the same time. That's where the debate comes in. Do you look at Woolen as a short-term rental to fix a need, or do you believe enough in his potential to invest long-term? If it's the former, you're not going to want to give up more than a late-round pick. If it's the latter, you're committing to a future that could get really expensive. And when you're trying to balance cap space for Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, and all the other big names, you've got to pick your spots carefully. And then there's the edge rusher conversation that refuses to go away. Because let's be honest, Dallas needs juice there. That's why veteran names like Cam Jordan have started popping up in trade speculation. Jordan's not the player he once was, but he's still productive, still tough, and most importantly, cheap from a cap standpoint. If the Saints decide to move on and let him chase a ring, the Cowboys could at least kick the tires. The risk here is that you're getting a name, not necessarily the game-changing version of him that used to haunt offensive lines. But when you're desperate for help at edge, sometimes a reliable veteran presence is exactly what you need to round things out. It's fascinating to see Dallas connected to all these defensive names because it shows you where the focus really is. The front office knows that this defense is their ticket to competing for a championship. The offense has been up and down, and Dak has had a share of critics, but the formula is clear. If the defense is elite, Dallas has a chance against anybody. That's why you're hearing Simmons, Woolen, Jordan, and others come up in the rumor mill. The Cowboys want to shore up every possible weakness before the stretch run. Now, not every rumored move makes sense. For instance, the recent talk about trading for a wide receiver like Xavier Legette, that feels way off. Why would Dallas give up assets for a pass catcher who hasn't proven himself, especially with CeeDee Lamb on track to return soon, Brandon Cooks still in the mix, and younger guys like Jalen Tolbert starting to step up? That one feels more like throwing a dart than actually addressing a need. The defensive side of the ball, though, that's where the serious conversations are happening. All right, so let's keep this conversation rolling because the trade chatter doesn't just stop at Jeffrey Simmons, Tariq Woolen, or Cam Jordan. What makes this stretch of the season so compelling is that the Cowboys are in a position where every possible move is being dissected, and with good reason. They're contenders. That means every rumor, every whisper about a potential deal carries weight, because a single addition could be the difference between a playoff exit and a legitimate Super Bowl run. When you look at the current construction of this roster, the Cowboys are sitting in a fascinating spot. They've got blue-chip talent across the board, but there are cracks in the armor that can't be ignored. That's why the idea of making a splashy defensive trade feels so tempting. The Simmons rumor highlighted just how eager people are to link Dallas to any big name, even when the financials don't quite check out. But what stood out most wasn't the accuracy of the report. It was the reaction. Cowboys fans didn't dismiss it. They wanted to talk about it. They wanted to imagine what it would look like. That's the power of a team sitting on the cusp of something special. And it's not just Simmons. Let's swing back to Woolen for a moment, because that storyline deserves more air. The Seahawks potentially shopping him is one of those situations where fit matters as much as talent. Woolen's rookie season wasn't a fluke. His size-speed combination is rare, and he's shown he can produce at a high level. But when a player's snaps dip and rumors surface about availability, you've got to dig deeper. Is a scheme clash? Is it development plateauing? Or is it just that the team sees better options? From the Cowboys' perspective, this is a chance to buy low on a guy who could instantly elevate the secondary. Imagine Diggs and Woolen on the outside with Bland holding down the slot. That a long, physical, ball-hawking trio that fits exactly how Dallas likes to play defense. But again, the long-term contract implications hang over the whole discussion. The Cowboys aren't just looking at who helps them this year. They're trying to balance a cap sheet that's going to get squeezed by massive extensions for Parsons and Lamb. So you can see why the front office would hesitate, even if the player himself looks like a dream fit. Then there's Cam Jordan, a name every football fan recognizes. When his name gets floated around as a possible target, the immediate reaction is excitement, because his reputation precedes him. He's a future Hall of Famer, a guy who's terrorized quarterbacks for over a decade. But here's the catch. The version of Cam Jordan available today is not the same guy who was putting up double-digit sacks year after year. He's older, his production has dipped, and while he's still a solid player, he's not the game-changer he once was. For Dallas, the appeal is that he'd come cheap, both in terms of trade compensation and salary. For a day 3 pick, you could probably get a reliable rotational piece who brings veteran leadership and enough juice to help in key moments. The question becomes, is that enough to really move the needle? Because if you're going to give up draft capital, even late-round picks, you want a return that truly elevates your roster. It's a balancing act. Dallas is in win-now mode, but they can't ignore the long-term health of the franchise. That's why some of the more puzzling rumors, like a trade for a wide receiver, feels so off base. The talk about Xavier Legette made little sense from a jump. This is not a team lacking in pass-catching options. CeeDee Lamb is the centerpiece. Brandon Cooks provides speed and veteran savvy. Jalen Tolbert has started flashing, and guys like Cavani Turpin and Jalen Brooks add depth. You also have Jake Ferguson and Luke Schoonmaker at tight and contributing in the passing game. The idea of spending picks on another wideout who hasn't proven he can separate consistently in the league just doesn't add up. And when you look at Legette's track record, more drops than touchdowns, you have to wonder how a front office like Dallas, which usually values proven production, would ever consider him a fit. That's why this rumor feels like outside noise rather than an actual possibility. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Dallas Cowboys. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. Jerry Rice has sent shockwaves through the NFL world with a statement that has fans and analysts buzzing. The legendary wide receiver, often regarded as the greatest to ever play the game, recently made comments about the Dallas Cowboys that have left many questioning what exactly is going on behind the scenes. In a surprising turn, Rice hinted at frustrations and unspoken tensions within the franchise, suggesting that the Cowboys' image of a perfectly tuned team might not tell the whole story. While Rice stopped short of revealing concrete details, insiders speculate that his remarks touch on the team's locker room dynamics and potential unrest among key players. It's more than just what you see on Sundays, Rice said in an interview that has since gone viral, adding fuel to ongoing debates about Dallas' current trajectory. Some analysts suggest that Rice may be subtly critiquing the coaching staff's handling of star players or questioning the strategic decisions that have left the Cowboys struggling to reach their peak potential. Social media erupted almost immediately after Rice's comments, with fans dissecting every word and sports talk shows dedicating hours to speculation. Was he pointing to a rift between veterans and newcomers? Is there more tension brewing than the public is aware of? The mystery deepens, especially considering Rice's legendary reputation for professionalism and his status as someone whose opinion carries weight in any locker room. The Cowboys organization has yet to respond officially, but sources close to the team insist that internal conversations have been happening quietly, and Rice's comments may inadvertently shine a light on issues that management has been trying to keep under wraps. Meanwhile, rival teams and their supporters are having a field day, speculating that the Cowboys' internal challenges could influence their performance in the upcoming season. Whether Rice's remarks will lead to tangible changes or remain a whisper in the NFL rumor mill remains to be seen. What's clear, however, is that Jerry Rice has once again reminded the league why his voice commands attention, even decades after his retirement. Cowboys fans, brace yourselves. The legend has spoken, and the ripple effects could be just beginning. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Dallas Cowboys, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. We always look forward to your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.